So marine debris is basically any solid man-made material that's in the marine environment that's not meant to be there. So it can be anything from a tiny microplastic that maybe you can't even see with the naked eye, up to large lost fishing gear like nets and traps, or even abandoned and derelict vessels. I think a lot of what you see on a day-to-day basis is consumer items that make their way and leak. We call it leakage out of the waste management system. So just kind of common, what you see on the street ends up in the bay. The runoff from the streets, anything plastic when it's in the marine environment never actually degrades, but it breaks down into smaller and smaller pieces. So out in the marine environment, you find everything from these large items that, it might be a full plastic bottle or a bottle cap or something like that. But then there's also a lot of smaller microparticles that came from larger items that have degraded over time.
The top 10 items that we picked up in this past year are the same top 10 items that we picked up when we first started collecting data back in 1989. So there are a lot of impacts of marine debris, both on land and once it gets out into the ocean. On land, it's an aesthetic problem to begin with. It's ugly. Nobody likes to be in a dirty environment. Nobody likes to actually visit these environments. And in fact, we know now that our coastal communities are losing tens of millions of dollars a year because people are opting to go to areas with cleaner beaches. Orange County, for example, loses $34 million a year from its coastal economies because people are choosing to go to areas that have cleaner beaches. So there are aesthetic problems, there's economic problems, clearly.
All animals are affected by the pollution. And we're actually starting to affect humans because the plastic breaks into smaller and smaller pieces. So it's like plankton. And the plankton, the plastic pieces that are so small get absorbed and get eaten by the plankton and the zooplankton, and they're getting it. Then the other animals eat so many plankton, right? Millions of plankton. And then the bigger fish eat the littler fish, and it's going up the food chain. Until now we find plastic chemicals in the tissue of sea lions, whales, sharks, dolphins, tuna, and then we're eating those fish. So everybody is affected by the plastic in the ocean, in my opinion. We're all affected. Not to mention the number of sea life that is killed by being entangled, or by feeling full when they really have plastic in there and not food, or by having blockages because they have a balloon in there or they have a bag in there. So we can't even count the number of animals that are killed every year. We can't even say. So the number one thing we pick up at every cleanup everywhere is cigarette butts. Cigarette butts are the number one item. Unfortunately, there's too many of them. They're everywhere. And it doesn't matter whether it's a beach, a parking lot, a street, or a park. It's all the same. Cigarette butts are the number one item. And they're very damaging. There's 165 toxic chemicals in each one, and they're made of plastic.